Classic WoW's true potential is yet to be realized. You know what? I've noticed this a lot quite recently, that a lot of people have lost faith in retail WoW and everyone believes like Classic WoW is going to keep the franchise alive. But hey, let's see about that.
I want to start this video with a point that I was going to make right at the end because it's something that I want to get across. If you went back many years, you would have been told that classic servers were never gonna happen, but people asked for them on forums, on social media, and even at BlizzCon for a very long time, and eventually we got them. If you went back a bit less time, you never would have thought Blizzard would put time into creating seasonal servers for WoW Classic, and now not only have we had one seasonal server, but a second one is on the way. And if you went back a couple of months, no one believed that hardcore would go from a niche thing on our realms to something that Blizzard will look to make official by releasing their own realms. 3 instances of it'll never happen, happening. Sometimes enough people wanting something is enough for it to really happen, and it should happen again for the topic of today's video, Classic Plus. Classic Plus has been an idea that's been talked about for as long as Blizzard has confirmed that Classic Realms will be existing. What if instead of going down the line of expansions once again, Blizzard instead committing to finishing storylines that began in vanilla, adding new content in line?
But the big question is, and this is something I'm wondering, if you do some sort of Classic WoW Plus, is it still Classic WoW? Like, I often see that people like are trying to basically cope with Classic WoW because they don't like the direction of retail and they love like the early aspects of WoW. Like, why people love WoW Classic is because of the early aspects, like the way how like questing and world exploration was actually quite challenging and stuff, and how there were like more social interactions because you did need to make those to actually advance, especially for some quests where you have to like hunt down elites, right? Or same when it comes to like dungeons and raiding, because there was like no real group finder or anything where you just click on something, you wait for like 1-2 minutes and you just get queued into a dungeon with a group. No, this did not exist. You had to like manually find people and fly to the entrance of that dungeon. And I think like people really loved that a lot, and this is also like why they wanted Classic WoW back. Plus, you had like actually stuff that mattered, like gear and stuff, right? So if you would like a dungeon and you get like this blue sword or this purple sword, and it's like your first item like that, you were like all in hype mode, like, oh, look at this, I got this cool sword, like, wow. And nobody in my group got it, but I got it, I won the role or something, right? So people were like hyped about their gear and stuff. Nowadays, like, there are freaking events, you do just a few keys and you get like from weekly vault like a cool item. So I think it's like the early aspect that people love about Classic WoW. So why don't we just get a World of Warcraft 2 with those aspects, but with like modern graphics? I mean, look, we are in like 2023. Maybe in 10 years we have already flying cars or something, right? Technology is advancing. Soon we have Unreal Engine 6, 7 games, right? So why not just make like a WoW Remastered? Like, they don't even need to name this WoW 2, they can name it WoW Remastered. And WoW Remastered is actually with modern graphics, but it's just like Classic WoW, right? So a Classic WoW, but not Classic WoW, but WoW Remastered or something with Unreal Engine 5 or higher graphics.
With the spirit of the game,
so cool.
And growing vanilla World of Warcraft into something relatable, but ultimately a little bit different too. So today I'm going to go into why Classic Plus is ultimately the true end game of Classic servers, and is something that should be seriously considered by Blizzard. I want to start off by saying that Classic WoW for an MMORPG is a very popular game. Little has changed development wise, and what Blizzard did well over a decade ago now is pulling in hundreds of thousands, maybe even at points millions of players. Now, we don't have exact player numbers on how many people are active in the game, but we do have some information on this matter. Activision Blizzard's quarterly reports are published publicly, and one of the bits of information you can find there is the monthly amount of active users across the different development studios. Here's the most recent one for the quarter between April 1st ending June 30th. Across Blizzard, the most notable performers were Diablo, with Diablo 4 coming out in June, and Diablo Immortal saw an increase of players because of this. They also mentioned that Dragonflight is outperforming more recent expansions for the same point in time. Importantly for Blizzard, it also says that an individual who accesses the same game on 2 platforms or devices in the relevant period would generally be counted as a single user, and in June they saw 26 million monthly active users.
Okay.
Let's say an estimate of 12 million of those were on Diablo as the bulk of players, 4 million on Overwatch. Is that too few perhaps? I know the game's taken a hit since the PvE cancellation, but I reckon it's more popular than you'd expect.
The thing is about like Overwatch 2, like people really wanted that PvE mode, because in those trailers and clips that were shown to us, like people were like, oh, that's actually cool, that's something different, because we don't know this yet from like Overwatch. And if you look at Overwatch and how you have like it's not like your regular shooting game, right, where you just pick up a type of weapon, and it's not just that, but if you pick a character in Overwatch, they have not only do they have a role, like how you have like tank heroes, you have like sniper heroes, you have like more sort of melee or close range heroes, like it's kind of like, you could almost say that Overwatch is like a shooting RPG game, almost, kind of, right? Because there is a bit of story involved, and the characters, they have like certain traits and stuff, and you actually also grow like connected with certain characters and their story, kind of. So adding PvE would actually really fit, in my opinion, the Overwatch environment. Plus there would be some really fun modes. So it's kind of disappointing that they cut out so much of what Overwatch 2 was going to be. So yeah, it's still doing okay, but it could have performed way better also in population. But that's because they removed so much, unfortunately.
PvE cancellation, but I reckon it's more popular than you'd expect. 6 million perhaps on retail WoW. We know that it's exceeding previous expansions, it has frequent content releases, and a roadmap for the future too, which leaves about 4 million users left
it makes
between
players
the
feel
remaining
safe,
games.
the roadmap, I think.
Classic, on average, had 1/3 of the players that retail does. We're still looking at about 2 million monthly active users. Again, this seems a little bit high, and it may peak at that amount with patch releases. Even if it was literally half of that and Classic saw 1 million monthly active users, that would work out to a bare minimum of just over 33,000 unique players every single day for 30 days in a row. So in reality, it's going to be a 6-digit
a lot of
figure
servers would
quite
be dead.
easily, I reckon. Let's bring up some other MMOs that are in active development to see what kind of daily, non-unique player counts there are. New World just got a major update not long ago, under 25,000 players
it's on a comeback.
the past month. Lost Ark peaked over 40,000 in the last month, average about 25,000 or so. Black Desert Online, daily average of about 25,000. This does have another launcher though, so this
Black Desert Online actually surprises me. Like, I know they give like constantly like updates and stuff, but they have a gain of 49.91%. That's a big gain, like a gain of over 40, almost 50%. Holy shit. I didn't know this game was also on some sort of comeback. Like, I know about New World because they fixed a lot of bugs and stuff. There were even bugs where like people could not advance in their like storyline while questing and stuff. Like, imagine playing an MMO and you're in the middle of the story and then you have a bug where you can't advance. You have to make like a new character and hope you don't get this bug on this one. Like, that was actually a very, very bad bug. But they fixed it.
Doesn't show the full picture. There is a site that checks RuneScape's player count every 5 minutes, which is publicly displayed information on either game's homepages. At the far right of this graph, you can see the most recent player counts, with old school RuneScape being somewhere around 92,000 players as a monthly average.
There's a quarantine again. Why so many people are playing now MMOs?
We can look at Classic in a different way too, through ironforge.pro. This counts the number of characters logged in raids or arenas each week.
This.
However, this will count alts as separate characters. Even still, the most recent reset showed just under 430,000 characters. In fact, the two biggest Classic realms, Gehennas in Europe and Benediction in North America, have more non-unique players raiding and PvPing.
You know what? I think there's something very stupid here, and I'm pretty sure some of you right now are seeing this before I mention it. There are a lot of fake PvP servers in Classic WoW. And why are they fake PvP servers? Because you have servers where there's like 99.8% or like here Benediction, 99.7% Alliance players. If you play on a freaking Horde player and you kill one person in the overworld, all they need to do is cry in zone chat and you're being chased down by 20, 30 players as a single player at a time. And they're going to kill you till you start crying or whatever. And you're just gonna freaking rage quit the game. Like, why are the PvP servers that are not PvP? Like what Blizzard needs to do is there needs to be a cap, and there can be no more characters or accounts made once you hit on, let's say, one faction 60% population. Then you are forbidden to make new accounts or characters there or something, right? To bring anything over. Like, there needs to be a cap on PvP servers, so you don't have this where you have over 90% of this. Like, make it even 70%, and 70% is, in my opinion, already too much. I think it should be 60%, where you just can't make new characters on that faction. But even 70% if people are crying, so you have at least 20-30% that can come in your defense in the overworld. You have some crybaby say, hey, some guy's killing me, and then he calls for like 10-20 players to chase you down. Because even with max gear, you can't do much if 10-20 players are chasing you down the map, right? And this happens actually. I've heard about this from like some individuals that they are on, let's say, Gehennas, right, on an Alliance character, and they kill some people in the zone, and then they call like 5-10 plus friends, and they keep dying constantly because they are literally camping the zone like a police force, and they're just chasing down that one individual players that can do something against like an outnumbered faction, right? So why do we have PvP servers, but it's allowed to go to like 90+% on one faction? Yeah, this is kind of strange, I think.
Being alone than most other MMOs have total players. What I'm getting at here is that classic World of Warcraft, in the grand scheme of things, is a very big MMO with a huge number of players daily. Many other MMOs would be celebrating record players with what classic sees regularly. Clearly there is a demand for a slower paced, simpler, and straight up mechanically easier MMO. Classic is currently meeting that demand, but as we progress on through expansions, things do start to noticeably change. Endgame content starts to seriously ramp up in difficulty, class design begins to move away from the familiarity of vanilla, and more systems are added into the game. Wrath, even more so than Kata, feels like a turning point here. Ulduar was a difficult raid for Classic. Now, don't get me wrong, every raid ever will see a drop off in players the longer it goes on, but have you seen the week by week drop in raiders during this phase of Wrath of the Lich King Classic on Ironforge.pro? I can't help but see this and think harder raid does not necessarily equal better raid for the majority of players. And trust me, Cataclysm is going to be more challenging than Wrath. By a long shot.
Yeah.
Also, Classic Era getting more popular right now might just not be the biggest of coincidences. And it's not...
You know, it's like funny because now he mentions that like Cataclysm raids dungeons get more difficult. So if you're grinding up a character in retail WoW and you're like time walking, right, and you're spamming like old school dungeons, I usually do like TBC dungeons to level a character because they come with like many quests, like a little tip for you guys. So if you want to like really fast level a character, like do all the dungeons and queue up for them. Do like TBC time walking or something, right? And you get like those raids and dungeons. And if you do them, actually, they're actually even more easier also than if you do like the, let's say, Warlords of Draenor dungeons or something, right? And that's because like back in the day, there were not so many freaking mechanics. Nowadays, you have a lot of mechanics. Like especially like, I feel like Shadowlands was like the peak of mechanics in WoW. Like if you look at like how many freaking mechanics you had in like Shadowlands, like there was like even a raid where you have to like freaking dance with like a crowd and stuff. Then you have, was it like Theater of Pain, where you have to like freaking collect your soul or something that like walks away from you, otherwise you're just gonna die and stuff. They were like out of crazy mechanics. Or like there was like an M+ dungeon where like some sort of mob like kind of explodes and you have to hide behind something, and this was also in a raid and stuff. Like there's just so many more mechanics than we had back in the day, so... I would argue that like early like vanilla day dungeons and raids were like a walk in the park, literally. It was just so relaxing and chill. You just walk through and stuff. It was all about numbers, like how much DPS do you perform, like how good is your group composition, stuff like that, right? It wasn't about like you have to actually have your eyes constantly on the ground. Are there any rings appearing? Do you have to grab something right now? Must you hide now behind a pillar and stuff like that? Like that didn't exist back in the day. This is like from modern WoW, right? Like all those mechanics.
Not be the biggest of coincidences,
There were just a few.
and it's not the hardcore scene that has grown on it either. Just your regular vanilla WoW enjoyers are populating the Era realms once again, and Classic Era should continue to exist regardless of what happens, of course. But I can guarantee that nearly every single player there at the moment would at least try Classic Plus. Classic is still, to this day, a very popular MMO. The player base is there for Classic Plus to happen, and I'm sure of it. But what about Blizzard actually committing to it and making Classic Plus though? That's where things tend to get a bit more complicated. This is where time, innovation, and ultimately, money come in. Back in the day, of course, games had far shorter development cycles. It's amazing to see what studios could get done in a couple of years. EverQuest began development in 96 and released in 99. Vanilla itself took an estimated 4 to 5 years of development. And rather famously, the interior for Molten Core for Classic was designed in a few days as a proof of concept to work on a bigger raid than what Onyxia's Lair offered at the time. These days, it's not just re-releasing Classic though, it's rebuilding it to work with Blizzard's modern infrastructure. This has been something we've been made aware of at many different points throughout the game's history so far. This is why you've started to see modern features on the Classic client, such as the reconnect button if you DC or AFK for too long, and more recently the updated Dragonflight options menu. Though Blizzard are probably working with a whole lot of random code and scripts and figuring out how to make them work again without totally breaking them when they turn them back on. Meaning for newer assets, encounters and so on, it's still going to be a fair amount of work, right from design, art, sound, all the way to the end product. Also at Blizzard, I get the impression they move existing staff around to suit the needs of different teams, rather than hiring someone new to fill gaps which are presented. It does make more sense after all from a financial and
Wait a second, did he just say I saw 2 people fall off? Like, look at this ship. It is so crowded that people are like falling off, and those that fall off are probably going to freaking like be raging, right? Because now they have to wait for ages to get back, or maybe if they land, they can at least swim on the shore right here. Like, I'm going to reach land now. Maybe they can take like a flight or something, flight master, or just use the mount.
Sense after all from a financial and company point of view. I'd bet recently Diablo 4 has been a huge focus for Blizzard, and it seems they've really cleared space to put a lot of effort into that.
Because it's been ages since we got a new Diablo.
At a pace we have not seen for many years in retail World of Warcraft. And Classic has had a smaller team so far, but there is plenty going on. Wrath of the Lich King is progressing, we've just had updates to Era, we have hardcore servers, and a new seasonal at some point. All this is good and everything, but outside of the main Classic game, of course talking about Wrath here, there has been so much time between releases. And during this downtime, the rate at which we're progressing through the current Classic expansion is not getting any slower either. When Season of Mastery was announced as a yearly thing.
You know why they are doing this? And it is very important, and people, when you like think about it, it just makes sense actually, right? The reason why they release so slow new raids and dungeons and stuff like that, right? They're doing this on purpose. They have a long gap because they know that if they release it too early, then people are going to quit again. And if they release okay, let's say they release every 3 months a new raid, right? And they completely finish Wrath of the Lich King, right? And we got like Ice-Crown Citadel, everything in just like a half year after the release of Classic Wrath of the Lich King. Guess what will happen then? They will run out of ideas to add into Classic. Because the thing about Classic WoW is, and they said this in an interview, they want to give people the experience they had back in the day, right? So if they add like new stuff, let's say raids or dungeons that did not exist during the vanilla WoW days, like the early days, let's say 2009 or something, right? Then people will have the issue that they end up in a game that they don't recognize and they don't get the nostalgia. Like the issue we have with Classic WoW is it is made for our older, still existing player base. It's not really made for like new players. It's like to bring back nostalgia, and that's the issue. That's why I keep saying they need to figure out a way to make a World of Warcraft 2 that is modern graphics, modern engine, at least Unreal 5 level, and make it be with a difficulty and play style like classic WoW. So you get like all the good stuff you had back in the day, but on modern standards. And why is this also good? Because that means the younger generation, that was us like 10 plus years ago, when we were like in our late teens or early adult days, right? Where we got to play WoW for the first time, and we had this really crazy experience that we are now wishing and longing for this again with classic WoW, right? Like, we can give the same to like the new generations, to all those 16, 18-year-olds and stuff right now, by making a World of Warcraft 2 that's just like classic WoW, but with maybe even like a whole new plot, new characters, taking place like 100 years later after the events of Retail WoW. Like 100 years after Dragonflight, for example. Like all the famous characters, they died of old age or maybe through war or something, right? And now we have all those new faces, and maybe they're being introduced to us through a Warcraft 4 strategy game, right? Like, we have Diablo 4, right? And it took a couple of years and it came out. So can't they do the same with like the strategy game Warcraft? Like, make a Warcraft 4, wait for like 2-3 years after the release, and then make like World of Warcraft 2 with the same sort of difficulty and challenge that like classic WoW had, but like just on modern day standards. I think that would be the best solution for Blizzard to keep the franchise alive.
I thought there would be
we need also a young new player base
between each season.
Because everyone's aging.
Well, here's some fun stats for you. Season of Mastery Naxxramas came out over a year ago now, on July 28th, 2022. In fact, Season of Mastery itself released 16th of November 2021 and closed February 14th, 2023. That's 456 days, or just under 1 year and 3 months. The Burning Crusade Classic launched 1st June 2021, and Wrath Classic came out on the 26th of September 2022. Between those dates is 483 days, or just under 1 year and 4 months. In total, the Burning Crusade Classic was out for just about 1 more month than Season of Mastery was, which is kind of crazy to think about. Which, of course, at this point in the video, we get onto something we were going to talk about eventually: the money. Blizzard won't do Classic Plus because it will cost them money. You've probably heard it, and there is definitely something in that statement, but I don't believe it's the cost of developing it that's the problem so much as the opportunity cost of not developing something else.
Ooh.
The Classic is really successful as an MMORPG, but not as successful across Blizzard's range of games. And I bet you are waiting for me to bring it up, but over at Jagex, allegedly RuneScape 3 generates higher overall revenue due to their microtransactions, despite old school RuneScape nearing 4 times the amount of monthly players.
I couldn't play that game, I'm sorry.
I think
the graphics
Retail has more players for sure, and you know what else it also has more of? Microtransactions. So I would be very confident that it's going to be getting a lot more work put into it, because what Blizzard can earn back from it is going to be much higher than what they can with Classic. We did just have the WoW token put into Classic though. This will have added some extra value to this version of the game from a financial point of view. And if you take a look at the historic price of the Classic tokens so far, it's been consistently dropping in all regions. For me, this suggests there are more people paying for tokens and posting it on the auction house relative to those purchasing it with in-game gold. The token, however, is just for Wrath. In vanilla, there is no microtransactions, no token, and only a subscription fee. And for games these days, that's, well, it's not really how it works anymore, is it? Is there another online subscription-based game that's this popular with no token and no microtransaction? These days you gotta min-max that revenue via several different sources, and that is
the only way we can stop this movement is, but this is like a political matter. Like, countries need to make a cap for a microtransaction cannot be more than $15 or something, or $20, and you can only have like a few. Like, the only thing that can stop this is law. Like, if no country, or like a big country, like let's say, okay, it's maybe a stupid example. Let's say France, for example, decides to, and there are a lot of players that also are from France, they have like a ban on microtransactions in games. Then all the companies will be forced to stop this or to restrict it to just some areas, right? And this is like a huge revenue loss for them. And then what they have to do then is, and that's like another model, is they just constantly have to put out new expansions and just say, hey, each expansion is now $50-$60 or something, right? So maybe the price will go up there a little, and maybe like $10 more than usual. But they would have to find other ways. I think the only way to like get rid of microtransactions is politically, by having a few, let's say, European countries or so call this gambling, or make it more difficult, or you need to verify yourself with some card or something, or there's just like a limit. There cannot be a microtransaction over $15 or $20. And if they do that, or a limit you can do, then maybe companies will think the other way. Because they're not gonna stop, because they know all that through microtransactions they can make more cash than by just selling the game. Because if you buy 2-3 microtransactions in a year in a game, right? Like you buy this outfit for $20, this mount for like, let's say $30 or $40, you already in 1 year spent as much as you would if you just buy the game, or if you were subscribed for like 5 months or 4 months or something, right? So they make so much extra cash with microtransactions that they will not by themselves, even if we beg them, stop this. The only way to stop this is law, and this must be done politically by having some countries actually make this illegal, or add like some sort of cap or something where you can't spend more than, let's say, $50 a month or something in this. Only then maybe they will like pay less attention and they will not invest so much, because right now they're putting each company resources and employees into the shops, right, where they actually design stuff and add stuff, or have like a plan. Hey, next month we want to add a Halloween themed outfit. In December we want a flying deer with maybe some glow effect that has like Christmas vibes or something, right? So they're actually gonna like invest money and resources into making stuff for the in-game shop. And the only way to stop this is by having them not spend so much resources and time into that, and only law can do this by like some political movement where some countries say, hey, microtransactions are bad, they need to be banned or restricted. But until then, no, those shops are microtransactions, they're never gonna leave. We have to live with them.
Problematic for vanilla. Vanilla is also far more economy driven than later versions of the game. Gold retains value throughout the entire duration of the game, and the ability to trade it for real life money would very much harm the integrity of the game to an enormous degree, more so than it already does through people buying gold from bots, that is. Vanilla almost feels as though it is unmonetizable beyond the subscription fee. So for new content to really have a chance to be added, there would have to very clearly be an extremely large demand for it to happen from the player base. And I think this is one of the big factors holding the potential of the game mode back. 100 people can say they hate microtransactions, but it takes one person to engage with it enough for it to be worth it. How is Classic Plus
because
going
they make
to see
so much
dev time when currently it's hard capped at $15 a month per person?
I know people that spend $300 a year on
games
microtransactions.
Have a whole range of different ways for money to be spent on them. This is why if you really want to see it, it's worth asking loud and clear for Classic Plus. If enough people get behind it, I think it will give it the greatest chance of existing. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and believe me, for many people it will not be. And between the choice of it's not perfect for everyone and it doesn't exist is kind of a no-brainer to me. Classic Plus would offer huge opportunities for the long term of this game though. It would be a chance to take the story of vanilla in a different direction. I've done near enough an hour's worth of content just on the loose ends of vanilla, or ideas that were scrapped, and they are both some of my most popular videos recently. As Classic naturally progresses into expansions with harder content, more class changes and more additional systems, Classic Plus would offer fresh experiences for people who do want the slower paced, simpler, and straight up easier game. Classic's popularity proves that there is a niche in the MMO market for the type of game that it is offering. If this whole thing was just nostalgia, it would be long gone by now, but it is not. We got classic servers, we got seasonal servers, we got hardcore servers, and one day I would very much like to see Classic Plus servers. And that is about all I have for you today. Probably a bit of a different take on Classic Plus. I didn't want to go into the gameplay systems too much, as just getting Classic Plus to be committed to in the first place is kind of the bigger deal at the moment. There are certainly issues with it, which I have highlighted in this video, but at the end of the day, a for-profit company is going to do for-profit things. So I hope enough people make it apparent that Classic Plus is something worth investing into. And I don't usually ask, but do share the message if you do want to see Classic Plus one day. It doesn't have to be on this video either, but posting on forums, social media, even on the comments here, wherever really, let Blizzard know that you're interested in Classic Plus. A lot of things have happened in Classic because the community has asked for it and kept asking for it. Maybe one day Classic Plus can too. But as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.
But I have one request for Classic Plus. Can we get retail graphics? Like, I love playing Classic WoW. I have fun, but I can't stand the looks of the characters and the faces. Like, if I look at like my Mecha Orc Warrior and his like face in retail WoW and like my warrior in like freaking Classic WoW, like my eyes look like literally like pixels or something. Like, it looks so strange, right? Like the models. Or like at the ending of this video, how we saw like this female no mage, right? Like how the nose looks like kind of like so pointy and kind of strange and stuff. Like I would love to actually have the graphics of retail in Classic, but everything else like Classic. Like, I don't know, like for me, Classic is sometimes more fun to play, especially during like my leveling experience is definitely more fun in Classic WoW. I enjoy leveling more in Classic WoW than in retail WoW. But then I look at my character and I'm like, I look like shit. Like, what is going on with those graphics? Like, we are in 2023. But I get it, it's a nostalgia, and that just reminds me of like how I used to play like WoW like over 10 years ago or something, right? Like 15 years ago. But still, like, I don't know, I often wish we had like more modern graphics and stuff, like more fluent looking movements when you attack. But then it's probably like Classic was like World of Warcraft 2, and I think that's what I'm wishing for the most. Like a World of Warcraft 2 with the way you like level and combat and stuff. And raid in a way, because it's very chill. You don't have to like constantly have those add-on alerts on and watch, is there something on the ground, must I now step in and out of it, and this and that. Because to be honest, like dungeons keep getting more and more complex. Like I remember like doing this one in the forest, this Ardenweald M+ in like Shadowlands, and there was like one phase that and you guys gonna laugh at me for this, but I died quite often to this. And there's like this one boss, I forgot the name of the boss, but you have to actually jump up because there's some sort of mechanic where like the ground is on fire or explodes or something, right? And there's like this one ability or something you have to use to jump up when the boss does this. If you don't, you just dead. And I kept dying to it, and I was like so upset. I was like, what kind of mechanic is this? I never had this mechanic. Like, if I remember like 5-6 years ago, there was no such mechanic where I had to freaking jump up to survive. Or you have like a ghost you need to catch of yourself or something. If not, you die. It's alright, it's like fun to sometimes have those, but I just feel like they make just things more and more complex. I don't know what's going to be like the next mechanic. Maybe you have to solve a puzzle to survive in the new expansion, and then like in the combat you just get taken out and there's like a puzzle, and if you don't solve the puzzle you die or something. Like, I don't know what else they can come up with when it comes to mechanics in raids and dungeons. Yeah, we have now dancing, jump up from some area, otherwise like the bomb will kill you. Soon there's a puzzle, maybe you have to do some math question to survive. Who knows? It's just crazy. But yeah, I really miss the nostalgia and stuff, but I just wish we had like modern graphics in the engine. So yeah, maybe they should think about World of Warcraft 2 in like 5 or 6 years from now. But let's see. But yeah, what do you guys think about Classic Plus? I want it. I think it would be cool. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. If you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. And I will see you guys next time.